On the channel, we take a look at my top 10 Marvel Legends comic book figures of 2021. Welcome everyone, Cowboy Kyle back again with another top 10 list, and today we're counting down my top 10 favorite Marvel Legends comic book inspired action figures. We'll also do a top 10 on the MCU version as well, so stay tuned for that one. As you know, we're doing a lot of top 10, top 5 lists to close out 2021. We got to see how the year shaped up for us so we can look to the future in 2022. Hopefully, as we always say, constant learnings, constant improvements. Hopefully next year is better than 2021. But we had a lot of good figures in 2021 from many different lines, as you guys know out there. But today, we're narrowing it down. I've got my top 10 list for my Marvel comic-inspired, we'll call it, list out there. And I ask you guys as well, jot your list down, put it in the comments. But I always say, put it number 1 being your best, 10 being your 10th best of 2021, as it's always fun to compare the list. It's real easy to just throw names out there, but when you got to put them in order, that's where the real fun begins. So make sure you put your list in order down below. So let's get after it. Without any further ado, let's start it off at number 10. All right, we start off at number 10, and number 10 comes from Marvel Legends, one of the best sublines of Marvel Legends, we'll call it, of the last few years. And last year was probably the best line for Marvel Legends, and this year pretty close as well. But what are we talking about? We're talking about the Spiderman animated series retro wave out there. Beautiful packaging on these figures, but you're probably saying, okay, which one comes in at number 10? Well, number 10 for me is the Hasbro PulseCon exclusive Venom. Venom is at number 10 on my top 10 list. Venom, I am of the age when Venom came to market. Carnage, Venom, all those fun stories from back in the day, video games, other properties as well. So I was all in on Venom back in the day. I was all in on the animated series with Venom as well. So this one does hold a special place for me, as Venom being one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Spider-Man comic villain, anti-hero, whatever you want to call him out there. I really did love this figure. Now, there is some faults with this figure. The holes on the back from the Omega Red body, pretty unexcusable not covering those guys up. Also got the blue and the red kind of cell shading from the comic book, or not the comic book, from the animated series. I don't like that, but this figure is so good, I can look past both of those things. Obviously, if those things weren't on there, I gotta think he'd be way higher on my list. But that being said, I do think in 2022, we will get this Venom re-released to the mass market without the cell shading, with the holes filled. This is the body for Venom. This is a Venom we've needed for a long time. That's how excited I was to get this Venom. It blew away my expectations. Extra head sculpts on it. Of course, the packaging being fabulous. Just a very, very solid Venom figure. And that's why he's coming in at number 10 on my countdown. All right, we're feeling fine at number 9 as we continue the Marvel Legends countdown. And number 9 comes from a fairly recent Marvel Legends series of 2021. One that does hold one of my favorite Build-A-Figures of all time in that wave. So you probably already kind of doing the math a little bit here. But this is from the Iron Man wave that we got earlier in 2021. A wave that went to clearance at many Walmarts out there, but now I'm seeing starting to show up again at some of the toy stores and stuff. So an interesting line, like I said, did go down to clearance. But what figure from that line am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Iron Man. Yes, Iron Man. Now, I'm never going to claim I'm the biggest Iron Man fan in the world out there. I respect Iron Man, but as a kid, I did not read Iron Man comics. Of course, if I had Avengers, X-Men, stuff like that, he would cross over every once in a while. I did watch the Iron Man animated series when all the great Marvel animated series were going on in the 90s. So when I think of Iron Man, I always think of that cartoon, and I think of the Toy Biz line back in the day, and some of the video games out there as well from that time period. And this is one of the 2 Iron Mans. When I close my eyes, this is exactly what I think of, kind of the modular Iron Man out there. A beautiful figure, and like I said, one of my Iron Mans for me, for my list, for when I close my eyes and think of Iron Man, there's 2 costumes I think of, and this is definitely one of those. So I was very happy as we get tons of Iron Man figures every single year. I was happy to finally get one of my Iron Mans in 2021. So that's why this one comes in at number 9 for me. All right, we're at the number 8 point of the countdown, and number 8, we return to Iron Man. No stranger to the Marvel Legends wave, be it MCU, comic, or anything else under that umbrella of Marvel Legends, as Iron Man is a big seller out there. And I just talked about number 9 Iron Man. Well, when I close my eyes and I think of Iron Man, I think of that one, and I also think of this one. Now, this Iron Man is more from my comic book reading days, as when I was getting into comic books, I had a very famous comic book of Iron Man and Captain America fighting each other. Whenever I close my eyes and I think of Iron Man, this is what I think of. I think of this version of Iron Man fighting Captain America, and it is this Iron Man. Beautiful yellow, beautiful reds on this one. I gotta tell you guys, though, I cheated a little bit on this one. But even without the cheat, it would still be at this. But on here, I have the Tony Stark AI head from that Iron Man wave earlier this year. That is the extra head here. So I put that on this Iron Man. He normally has this helmet on. But this is the Iron Man outfit I think of when I first think of Iron Man. When I was first introduced to Iron Man, this is the outfit he was wearing. So it's a special Iron Man suit to me. I was very happy to get this in figure form this year, and then to get this beautiful, which we've had this head sculpt for Tony Stark before, but this is the best version with paint and everything else of it, and I had to put it on this Iron Man, and then doing the old trick of having him holding his helmet off to the side. Just a beautiful Iron Man, and this is my Iron Man. Number 9 is a great one. That's my second favorite. This is my favorite Iron Man figure, so I was very happy to get this one in 2021. And that's how I have him displayed. So this is why he's coming in at number 8 in my Marvel Legends countdown. All right, we've come to the number 7 spot. Make sure you got your list together. Hopefully you're working on it as you're watching this video. But number 7, we once again return to the Spider-Man retro wave. A wave that stole my heart from the word go and still is stealing my heart now. It's a wave I wish I could keep on card. It's that beautiful, and a lot of good figures over the last couple years in this, with a lot more to come any day now. In the next month or so, I think the new wave will start hitting, but those are going to count as 2022, as most people won't have access to those in 2021 from where I sit, as you guys know, right here. But the Spider-Man wave has been interesting, as they've thrown a lot of fan channel exclusives into this wave over time. We've had lines that have gone to Target, Walmart's, everywhere, but then fan channel exclusives left and right. That's kind of been the last 6-8 months. It seems like that's where most of these figures have went, and number 7 for me is no different. Number 7 is a deep, deep cut. I kind of scratched my head why it was in the Spider-Man retro wave, as he wasn't in the cartoon as far as I remember, wasn't in the toys line as far as I remember. It almost feels like the Hasbro team said, hey, we got this figure, it's basically a repaint, where can we stick this that would make sense? And the Spider-Man wave probably made the most sense instead of a traditional everywhere Marvel Legends. And with this being a fairly deep, deep cut, I don't think I could say fairly, I'd say this being a deep cut, I think this is where they said the best home for this is in the Spider-Man retro wave. So number 7 for me, we got Webman, and this one was one I was not very excited about when it was announced, but boy, once I got this in hand, the color, the blue and the red on this just pops. Unbelievable. I think even pictures don't do this justice, how good this looks in hand. It is the Spider-Man retro body that everybody was over the moon for, myself included. Love that figure. So we're getting that reuse, which is great. But the Webman just, it pops. You stick this on a shelf, it catches your eye over a lot of other figures, a lot more famous figures. We know this was like a 1 or 2 story arc. I think it was in the 70s maybe. I did the review on the channel. All these were reviewed on the channel, so go back, check those reviews out if you want to go deeper on any of these. But this Webman was a Doctor Doom type robot out there, so pretty famous. There's a meme out there of this as well, I believe. But the Webman, never in a million years would I guess this is a figure I wanted or that it would be in my top 10 list, but here we are, Webman landing at number 7. All right, we've come to number 6 on my 2021 Marvel Legends countdown, and number 6 is another interesting one. We're going to actually show 2 figures here because they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Very similar, but very different at the same time. And at number 6 for me, we're going to go MODOK. Yes, MODOK, a long-requested Marvel Legends for many years, but we got 2 MODOKs, so we got to talk about them both. Marvel Legend request, probably high on the most people's lists out there, was a MODOK. There was an old school Toy Biz one. You guys know my story. I wasn't collecting those Toy Bizes. I really don't like those Toy Bizes a whole lot, which I know, say what you want about it. But I was very excited to get a MODOK this year in 2021. But I was even more excited to get the Rockabilly version of MODOK. Now, I don't know Next Wave. I've never read the comics, don't know anything about it, but this was the Hasbro PulseCon exclusive, fall of 2021. And this one, I love. I love the MODOK goofy interesting, weird-looking character. But then you give him that Brian Setzer haircut going on. You give him some rockabilly glasses. You give him some cheeseburgers. Man, sign me up all day long. So between these two, there's enough to be crazy with this one. There's enough to be regular, menacing MODOK. And it truly was the year of MODOK, as he did have his own TV show on Hulu, as most of us know out there. So, very interesting figure. Not traditional figure at all. You got arms and legs, but a weird body style. I mean, I don't need to go in on MODOK, but just interesting, something different. Once again, getting the most out of your molds, releasing him twice in some ways. MODOK, just a crazy one this year. He stole my heart, and he stole my heart enough to land at number 6 on my top 10-year countdown list. All right, we've come to the halfway point of the countdown here. Number 5 is a surprise. Once again, a figure I did not assume that would be on my top 10 list. A figure I never was hoping for. I guess figured it would come eventually, but it wasn't on my list. Like, oh man, I hope they make this figure. But when it came through, and it came through just fairly recently, so that maybe helps it a little bit. I don't know, but it came through and I really enjoyed this one. And much like the Spiderman retro waves with the beautiful carding, thick card stock out there, this figure also had this. This figure is also a Fan Channel exclusive in 2021. It is on the old school Marvel Toy Biz days card stock out there. And who are we talking about? We're talking about an Avenger. We're talking about Hercules. And we're not talking about Kevin Sorbo out there. We're talking about traditional comic version Hercules. Now, we got a more updated Hercules 2-3 years ago in the line. And for me, I said, you know what, that's good. That's my Hercules. I'm fine with that. I don't really need another Hercules. But then this one came out with the classic inspired look. And what really gets this one for me is the two different heads. The kind of goofy smiling head sculpt is really nice. Then the more menacing head sculpt is really good as well. Nice accessory with his mace, and then just the classic Hercules look to him. And like I said, nowhere near the top of my favorite superheroes of all time, not even anywhere close, but just the looks of this figure with the skin tone, the mobility of this one, just the looks of it, just won me over. And I was even surprised that this landed in at number 5 for me on my top 10 of 2021. All right, we're down to the final 4. It's like the NCAA basketball tournament now. We're at the final 4 Marvel Legends comic book inspired of 2021 with a little animated series thrown in, as you guys have seen, but you get the gist. Number 4 is a character I never even heard of. It's amazing. This list is really all over the place, from some deep cuts, people I've never heard of, people I didn't know I wanted, and people I couldn't live without. So it's very interesting, dynamic list here that's all over the place. And as I've said before, every one of these figures was reviewed on the channel in 2021. So if you want deeper discussion on these, find my reviews, search it in my Marvel Legends playlist, all that kind of fun stuff. But number 4 is a sleeper one. A lot of people didn't like this figure, and I think a lot of it had to do with it is a deep cut, and a lot of people have not heard of this character, myself included. But I could look past all of this for this figure, and I said it in my original review. I just loved it so much, and this one has grown on me every single day in 2021 since I've had it. I've used it for a lot of different figure photography because it just works, and it works for so many different uses beyond the current Marvel Legend space of your displays and setups and stuff like that. Who am I talking about at number 4? I'm talking about the Hood. Yes, the Hood. Who would have thought this guy would have blown things away? One of, if not the most versatile figures in Marvel Legends this year, as it is the character here. He's got the hood on, all that kind of stuff. But then you take the hood off, and it's just like a regular old Joe out there. Just a regular guy. This looks like just some guy that would be at a baseball game or something like that. But then he's got that angry, screaming face. And we've seen so many memes this year, people using him in different things. But he works great as just a guy on a street, a guy in a crowd in a wrestling arena, a superhero, a supervillain. He works a lot of different uses. So you put the hood on him, he's a superhero, super vigilante, super bad guy. Take it off, he's just your average Joe out there. So you got two uses going on right there. And then you give him these guns. You give him these pistols. Just straight up that look like real guns. Doesn't look like a space gun. Doesn't look like anything like that. So you get their use out of these guns. You can use it with different characters that you feel didn't have a gun, that needed a gun. You use them with him. It makes his dynamic of his screaming face just all that much more crazy. It almost reminds me of that movie Falling Down. As he just falls down. What are the odds of that happening? falling down with, what was that, Michael Douglas back in the day. Never saw the movie, but I got the gist of it. I got the gist of it back in the day. And that's just, he looks like just an angry guy. And you can use him in so many different scenes. He's such a versatile figure. And he's one a lot of people passed on. And I actually bought a couple of these figures as just recently. They were $9 on Amazon shipped. I said, I can't resist getting another one of these. If I ever get my wrestling setup put back up, I might put him as right in the front row as a crazy angry fan. He's definitely going to be in my Marvel Legends setup. And then I'll definitely use him as a figure photography for reviews and stuff because he just fits. Using him with like a NECA werewolf in London, the Kessler wolf. He fit perfectly with that as a guy getting attacked by the wolf. Very, very versatile. Very deep cut in the Marvel Legends universe, but one of those rare crossover figures that I can think of a lot of people from different lines picking this guy up for different reasons out there. So that is why he comes in at number 4 on my 2021 top 10 list. All right, we're down to the final 3. Make sure you have your list together. You got to put it in order in the comments down below. At number 3, though, comes for a figure that I've been wanting since the word go, basically. One of my all-time favorite stories, one of my all-time favorite bad guys, heroes. He goes back and forth like a young Venom out there. And a character I've been wanting in the Marvel Legends for a long time. I was finally graced with it in 2021. Who am I talking about? We're talking about Age of Apocalypse. We're talking about Sabertooth. I love Sabertooth. I love Age of Apocalypse. I hope we get a Wave 3 of Age of Apocalypse in 2022, as I am a big Age of Apocalypse fan, as you guys know out there. And Sabertooth is one of the characters I really, really wanted. I assumed if they did make one, they'd make him as a Build-A-Figure. They did not, however. They made him a little bit bigger than a traditional Marvel Legends. But I was very happy to get this Sabertooth. We all know we got Wild Child the year before. Kind of his, I don't know, his dog, but his lackey, his partner in crime from the Age of Apocalypse. So it was great to be able to blend these two out, have these guys together. And if you saw my original review of these figures, I went all the way back and grabbed my Toy Biz Wild Child and Sabertooth to compare the two. So that was kind of fun. But I was very excited to get Sabertooth into this line. Now, if you guys would go back to my rankings of the Age of Apocalypse wave, Sabertooth came in at number 1 for me. I gotta be honest, as I always say, that's kind of in the moment when I do those rankings. But sometimes things grow on you. Sometimes they get better. Sometimes they get worse. If I had to do it all over again, I might put that Colossus Build-A-Figure at number 1. But it would be very close. I'd have to really sit and think about it for a little bit, but this was the strongest one in the Age of Apocalypse at the time, and it is still extremely strong. And from early intel, as this wave is just hitting store pegs right now, the last month or so, Sabertooth seems to be the most popular one. But you guys know people love big figures. They love hairy bipedal creatures, and Sabertooth kind of fits that mold. And they love people with fangs and teeth, and of course they love Wolverine and Wolverine villains, so you know Sabertooth is going to sell out there. Definitely recommend this one. One of my favorite figures of the year, as you can see, as he came in at number 3 on my top 10 list. All right, we're right at the end. We're at the final 2. And number 2 for me was a figure I have been wanting since I started collecting Marvel Legends. I passed on the Toy Biz version many moons ago, and I wanted to buy it so bad, but it's just god-awful. That's what I thought. I still think that way to this day. There were so many times I picked it up to buy it and said, I just can't. It does not look what I want out of this character. But all wrongs were fixed in 2021. As this was, I think I did a video somewhere last year. What was my most wanted figure in 2021? And this was high on my list, if not my most wanted Marvel Legends. So I was very happy they brought this one to figure form as part of Bring On the Villains, the Bad Guys wave, if you remember that from 2021. That is where this one came in. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Lady Deathstrike. So if you guys know with me, I have a deep fondness for late 80s through about 96, X-Men, comic books, TV shows, cartoons, stuff like that. That is my wheelhouse era, and Wolverine is my all-time favorite. And I collected all the Wolverines, basically Wolverine 1 through 120, let's call it. I was all in buying every single month when Wolverine would come out, plus the sublines, everything else. So you know I was knee-deep in Lady Deathstrike at the time. So a very, very fond character for me as my childhood. I had the original Toy Biz figure, which I did like. The later Toy Biz, like I said, hot garbage. But then they righted the wrong this year with the Marvel Legends, gave us this Lady Deathstrike, and she comes in at number 2 just because I wanted it so bad. It came out exactly like I wanted it. Could there be improvements? Sure there could, but not a whole lot. I love this one, and that's why Lady Deathstrike came in at number 2. So now we're at the end. We're at number 1. Any guesses what my number 1 figure of 2021 will be for the Marvel Legends? It's a deep cut. Stay tuned. All right, here we are. We're at the number 1 position. What is my number 1 Marvel Legend comic book inspired figure of 2021? Who is getting the great number 1 award? We got this award here, and yeah, it works. It works. But number 1 for me is a figure never in a million years that I think would be on my list. Another deep of deepest cuts that I was surprised almost even got made, but man, I'm glad it did. Never in a million years did I know that this figure would steal my heart and never let go, and it started stealing my heart in about, January, February of 2021. And it's one that has never left my mind. It is prominently displayed in my collection. It is such a deep cut, and that is part of its magic. Some of these deep cuts, like we talked about the Hood earlier, how great a figure that was when I didn't even know anything about him. This figure was a lot in that same breath, but took it up one extra step for me. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about from the Marvel Legends Stiltman Build-A-Figure wave. I'm talking about the Frogman. Yes, Frogman, number 1 on my list this year. Some of you guys are probably like, that's terrible. It should have been this Spider-Man, Iron Man, more of a top character. Hey, I love those guys as well. But some of these deep cuts that make you investigate the character a little bit further, and just the looks and the strangeness of a character like Frogman. Frogman is one of those ones that a friend or somebody that doesn't really follow along walks in, sees your display. This is the kind of character that sticks out, and that's part of the power of some action figures out there. Obviously, it helps being a Spider-Man or a Captain America, an Iron Man, a guy that everybody knows out there. But sometimes these figures like this are the best ones, and that's how I felt about 2021. Great coloring on this one. Great use of the old Dr. Octopus body without making you feel like it's using Dr. Octopus's body. But what gets me here is obviously the frog outfit going on, but the head on this one. Now, this is a figure that looks amazing. You see that frog head going on, you're like, oh, this is a cool figure. That looks cool. But there's more to it. You got to look a little deeper. You look into the eyes, into the mouth of the frog head. You see 2 little beady eyes in there. The darkness of this character. It's just, it tells a lot of stories all in one little package here. At first you think it was a comical Frogman type thing, then you look a little closer, and then you get real deep looking into those eyes, and man, this is something almost demonic at this point. So I love this. This is just something that blew me away. It's never left my mind since I opened it. I'm not a mint on card Marvel Legends guy, but guess what? Frogman, I have 2 unopened Frogmans already in my collection. Every time I see these at a clearance or a discount, I was picking them up. And these were on Amazon, I think $10 for this one, and I got one of these at Walmart for like $6.80. I just couldn't pass it up. I didn't need them for any reason, but I like this character so much. I like this figure so much. I said, you know what? I'm going to have 1 mint on card in my collection, just for the heck of it. I don't know why. I am. And then this one, this is going to have my retirement. I'm going to retire off this figure, because in 20 years, people are going to finally come around to this Frogman figure, and they're going to say, oh my gosh, how do I get my hands on this thing? And I will make $100 off this, probably. Probably not at all, but I have 2. I'm not exactly sure why, but I just love this character so much. That's what it implored me to pick these up. I couldn't leave it. No Frogman left behind, I guess, a little bit of that going on there. But just a very, very deep cut, classic look, very cool, multi-layered character. I never in a million years, like I said, thought this would be number 1, but here we are. 2021's been a strange year. It's been a strange year in Marvel Legends and a lot of other lines out there. And when your number 1 figure of the year is a deep cut like Frogman, it just kind of sums up 2021 as a whole, I think. But what about you guys out there? Where do you sit in your top 10 list? Put them all down below in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell. We're going to have a ton of top 5, top 10 lists this year. You want to check them all out. We're covering all the major lines. And I can tell you, I've unboxed every single one of these figures we're going to talk about in all of these top 10, top 5 lists. So we got first-hand knowledge of these figures across the board. So very interesting take, I think, I have on some of these figures out there, like a lot of you guys do as well. So make sure you subscribe, like this video. You made it this far, you might as well hit the like button. Follow me on social media, SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, and of course, support the channel if you want, ProWrestlingTees.com, all kinds of t-shirts you can pick up to support the channel. So for the top 10 Marvel Legend figures of 2021, comic book inspired, and our boy Frogman, who came in at number 1, I am Cowboy Kyle. I will see you guys all real soon.